Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion, your host, and this is another episode of the insane asylum known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha, they're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny fun.
Yes, welcome back to the Baseball Head, and hopefully you like this video. We're going to have a lot of fun here, because we haven't done anything on the inmates, or the residents, WFAN in quite a while, and I just wanted to talk about them. There was a tweet put out, I guess, by the Spud, Sean Marash. He's one of these lightweights at WFAN. He's not even a regular personality. I mean, they prop him up on Tiki and Evan and Tiki in the afternoon, but he's about as big of a lightweight. I mean, a big lightweight. And I call him the Spud because he looks like a potato. I don't want to call him a potato. He's more of a Spud. Maybe put in Sean Marash, and that's his name, you'll find nothing but one picture of him eating something after another. There's no good pictures of him online. Nothing. Now, he is a Yankee fan, and which I thought was interesting, because the Yankee fans that work at WFAN, and really, they have sort of, I don't know if they're coping, or I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if they're getting really nervous that Juan Soto is going to sign with the Mets. And I think this is a lot of where this is coming from. They are basically downgrading the great player that Juan Soto is, bringing up things like, well, he's out of shape. That's one of the things they said. They didn't say that all year. Oh, he can't play defense. They didn't say that either. He's a guy that, he's going to be a DH. That's another thing. And they've done nothing but belittle him over the last 2-3 weeks since the Yankees season collapse in an epic proportions. I mean, I would mention the Mets played the Dodgers much better than the Yankees played the Dodgers. The Mets were not supposed to be there. Okay, the Mets ran a gauntlet from playing the Atlanta Braves. They beat the Atlanta Braves on the road. They beat the Milwaukee Braves on the road. All 3 games on the road. They beat the high-flying Phillies in 4 games, 4 out of 5 games in the divisional series, and they were playing a very, very difficult series against the Dodgers. Mets took them to a 6th game. The Yankees could not even get to a 6th game because they had a 5th inning that was for. If you're a Met fan, it was great to watch because you saw the Yankees absolutely collapse upon themselves. I mean, you talk about an inning for the ages. Well, you'll never see that kind of an inning again. Yankees had 5-0 lead. They coughed it up within 10-15 minutes. Coughed it up. And errors, all kinds of bad plays. It's just a mess. Their best player, Horseface, a.k.a. also known as Aaron Judge, made a crucial error. Their best pitcher, the guy that the media for the last 5 years has been pushing on us as he's the best pitcher in baseball. The Mets had Jacob deGrom here all these years, the best pitcher in baseball. He finally won with Cy Young, and this year he didn't cover first. And that was really the domino, the final domino in that inning was that not covering first, because that led to the first run in the 5th inning, in the 5th game of the World Series. But Sean Marash has, like most Yankee fans, they're angry and bitter because the Mets are rising out of the abyss that they've been in for a long time, and they're becoming the town's team. The Mets are taking over again, and it bothers people like Marash. Also bothers people like Brian. What the hell's his name? The Tierney guy, Brandon Tierney. What the F is his name? The Coconut. So a lot of times I forget their names. I just give them nicknames like the Spud, the Coconut, the Psycho Killer. That's Chris McMonagle. But these guys, they're all Yankee fans, and they're all bitter, and they're all, like I said, basically belittling. Whenever they get a chance to belittle the Mets, they do it. And Marash is probably the worst one. And he's a dope. I mean, he's got the brain power of a potato. At least a potato is a little more useful than he is. But anyway, as you know, they had the All-MLB teams yesterday and all the All-MLB second teams. Now, they did the first team, they had a couple of Yankees on it, they had Horseface on it, and they had Juan Soto on it. Fine. The shortstop for the All All-MLB team was Bobby Witt Jr., who, by the way, is an MVP candidate. He's not going to win it in the American League, but he also won a batting title for the Royals. He's a great young player. Francisco Lindor, he's one of the best players in the game. There's no like saying nasty things about him. It's good for him. He's a great young player. But Francisco Lindor was named the shortstop for the All-MLB second team. And you can see from this tweet, the Spud belittled the Mets and belittled us, which is what they do. This is what Yankee scum fans do. And the fact that he's a host, first of all, he wants the attention. Well, he got your host attention. And he got a lot of attention because they did mention it on Evan and Tiki today. That's how I saw it. I saw the tweet. And I mentioned your host has been responsible for completely changing the social media apparatus at WFAN from like they're doing live streams on YouTube. They're doing they're starting all kinds of podcasts. The Coconut has his podcast, Unkillable. You know, that's actually a better name for a podcast, Unlikable. And of course, we have the Rico Bronya podcast, which I would mention. Ed Robinson's a good host. He's a good Met fan, but that is a horrible name for a podcast. Sorry. You know, the horrible one. Why they call it John Olerud? You know, it's Rico Bronya. I got to do Rico Brony tonight. I know he was a Met, but you know he played for the Phillies a hell of a lot longer than the Mets, by the way. And the Mets replaced him with John Olerud, by the way. But they're doing all kinds of stuff. They don't post as much on their Odyssey, where I can read their articles and make fun of them. That's one of the many things they do. They're constantly doing podcasts. It's so funny. The Spaz Salicata has to do podcasts. It's so funny. The only people that don't do the podcast are the morning guys, because I think they're so irritated by it. And even Tiki Barber doesn't do it. Well, Tiki hates your host's guts anyway, because I brought up the fact that last year and really in the past years, when he played with the New York Giants, he was not the greatest teammate, and he wasn't one of the great employees of Tom Coughlin, by the way. And I would mention again, I said that he and Tom Coughlin didn't get along. They've not talked in almost 20 years. And that's according to Tiki on his show. Okay, so your host has been like a wrecking ball to the whole system there at WFAN, to where they had this, they just put the links into the podcast onto the Odyssey.com app, because they can't like have me reading what they're doing, and they're constantly posting stuff on YouTube. It's so funny. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that, how important this channel has been, and how you watching it and leaving great, because they read all the comments, folks. They read all these comments that you're leaving, and they see how upset you all are by their behavior on the line, in particular about our favorite team, America's team, the New York Mets. Well, let me read you this from this Spud. From Sean Marash, the Spud. Nobody celebrates falling short quite like the Mets. Hey, asshole. Nobody. Oh, drop the ball. Drop the ball. This is my impression of Aaron Judge. But the point being is that you got a very bitter guy who's very bitter that his team embarrassed themselves on the biggest stage in the World Series. The Yankees own the World Series. This is what the Yankee fans tell us all the time, isn't it? The Yankee fans have told us this for the last 30 years, that they're the World Series. We won 27 World Series. Okay? Who cares? Who cares? Can anybody remember really the 2009 Yankees? This was the last time they won a World Series. That's what people remember them as. The last team that won a World Series. People remember the 86 Mets. They're going to remember this Mets team for a long time. They're not going to remember the Yankees that lost to the Dodgers. In 20 years, the 2024 Mets will be remembered. The 2024 New York Yankees will not be remembered. They will be forgotten. Aaron Judge's time as a Yankee will be a disappointment, because he never won a World Series. And he's been a terrible postseason player. Terrible. Doesn't handle pressure well. He really doesn't. But you have to go after Lindor. You have to go after the Mets. Why? You're telling me that, and all the teams did this. All the teams put out these tweets about their players getting on this team. This is very good. They had a big award ceremony yesterday. They had on the MLB network. It was great to see it. They made a big thing out of Paul Skeens, which is great. And the awards are going to come out next week. We know that Lindor is not going to win the MVP. He should be the MVP, in my view. Because if you look at how Ohtani played, the Dodgers could have won the World Series without Ohtani. They could have gotten to the World Series without Ohtani. They didn't need him. He is a circus act. He's just there for the box office. He's just there to make money and to acquire players from Japan. Yamamoto was more important to them than Ohtani was, quite frankly. And if they get the Sasaki, that's the benefit of having Ohtani. But nobody can say that Lindor is not clutch, and whatever award he wins, it is a win for the Mets, and it's something to celebrate. I also would mention he should have gotten the Gold Glove this year and last year and the year before. He has been a great defensive shortstop for really the 4 years that he's been here, and the Mets have not been able to celebrate it under any circumstances. But Sean Morash doesn't understand it because this is another episode of the Insane Asylum, and they're all crazy, and none of what they do makes sense. And this again is an episode of the Insane Asylum known as WFAN. Subscribe.
They're coming to take me away, ha ha. They're coming to take me away, ho ho, hee hee, ha ha, to the funny fun.